Missing in Joplin's Grand Falls.
As that jet stream hangs out to our northwest, it means 3 more consecutive days of heat as we head into Father's Day weekend. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And the Federal Reserve is expected to hike up interest rates today in an attempt to lower inflation numbers.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The search resumes for a man missing at the Grand Falls in Joplin. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, the Missouri State Highway Patrol is leading the search. Trooper Sam Carpenter says they began the search this morning on Shoal Creek on both the surface and using depth sonar. Crews are looking for a man who went over the falls and did not resurface yesterday afternoon. The Joplin Water Rescue, along with the Missouri Department of Conservation officers and the Reddings Mill Water Rescue, are assisting the State Water Patrol. The rescue team started searching around 5 yesterday, but they paused looking overnight due to dangerous water conditions. Now, this area of Grand Falls is closed to the public. An escaped inmate is captured in Labette County, Kansas, after walking away from a prison in Veneta, Oklahoma. Kyle Ornder was serving 4 years for an unauthorized use of a vehicle conviction. Authorities say last Friday, Ornder walked away from the Northeast Oklahoma Community Correctional Facility. Yesterday, he was spotted about 50 miles north in Kansas. Labette County Sheriff's deputies arrested Ornder walking in a pasture southeast of Altamont. Well, law enforcement in Texas yesterday captured the 3rd missing inmate from a Southwest Missouri jail. U.S. Marshals had taken over the manhunt for Lance Stevens, the last of 3 men who broke out of the Berry County jail earlier this month. Officers arrested Stevens in San Antonio, Texas. Authorities had previously captured the other 2 escapees, Christopher Blevins near Casper, Wyoming, and Matthew Crawford in Springfield. You can read more about this case, including how they escaped, on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Heard Michael say something about 3 more consecutive days of heat. I don't like the sound of that.
I was just taking you into the weekend because I knew if I said something about, oh, maybe it's anywhere from 7 to 10 more days, is that I didn't want to ruin your afternoon.
Trying to give us light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not working.
Well, there's heat at the end of the tunnel because this will be the 5th consecutive day that we will be eclipsing 90 degrees. Okay, Tanya, I'll make you feel better about this. What if I tell you that our average June temperature is 85 degrees?
Okay.
So far, through the first 14 full days, our average high is 86. We're right on par, right? Okay, now we've got to get ready for a whole bunch of 90s that are going to come get us for Father's Day weekend, and as a matter of fact, carry us into next week. We sit at 86 in Joplin and in Carthage, 87 in Chanute. Let's roll 84 right now in Fort Scott and Miami, and another blustery one as it works in from the south, still rolling 15 to 20 miles per hour. As far as the Skywatch storm tracker goes, just some light cloud cover, but not enough to slow down that sunshine, as we'll still easily creep up into the low 90s later on today. Do want to say this though. The reason we don't have any heat advisories to talk about is because our heat indices are going to be in between, say, 97 to 99. We'll scrape out a triple digit every now and then, but they won't be as consistent as what we had from Sunday all the way into Tuesday. Now, as we get ready for Father's Day weekend, this is why Tanya didn't want to look too far into the future. Ms. Bach, there's a good chance that next week, our average high from Monday through Friday will actually eclipse what we're going to have this week.
Well, that's not very pleasant sounding.
But as you and I talked about this morning, our bodies will at least be a little bit more acclimated to the heat and the humidity.
Very true.
Coming up here in just a little bit, you'll see some spotty rain chances on there. We'll kind of break those down because it won't be widespread. And also, too, it's not going to cool us down.
For sure. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, the Federal Reserve meets today to discuss raising interest rates. The expected move is being made to combat inflation, which is at a 40-year high. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is expected to announce an increase in interest rates this afternoon. Higher interest rates make it more expensive to borrow money. That, in turn, means many people will eventually spend less. That leads to a drop in demand for goods, which should lower inflation. but the Fed has to proceed cautiously.
If they raise rates by too much or too quickly, they run the risk of slowing things down so much that we tip into a recession.
In Philadelphia Tuesday, the president acknowledged the impact inflation has had on Americans, with the average U.S. family spending nearly $350 more per month to buy the same amount of goods they bought last year.
Inflation. It's sapping the strength of a lot of families.
Inflation is also sapping the president's poll numbers, something Republicans are quick to pounce on in this election year.
We hit a few new records this last week. Of course, inflation is at another 40-year high. And we had another record with gas prices hitting $5 a gallon.
This morning, President Biden sent these letters to American oil refineries, urging them to produce more gas and questioning their record profits.
In March, the price per barrel of oil was about $120 per barrel, like it is today. But in March, we were paying $4.25 per gallon of gasoline. Today, we're paying over $5. So there's a 75-cent increase. What is going on there?
In addition to increased domestic production, the U.S. is calling on global manufacturers to increase production as well. The U.S. is the world leader in oil and gas production, with Saudi Arabia second. The White House has announced President Biden will travel to Saudi Arabia next month. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Every 0.25% increase in the Fed's benchmark interest rate translates to an extra $25 a year in interest on a $10,000 debt. So it adds up. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, another round of primaries and another round of decisive wins for Trump-backed Republicans. We're going to take a look at Tuesday's election results. And later, we're making Dad's beer-marinated steak in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Well, voters in Columbus, Kansas give the green light to renew a half-cent sales tax. Yesterday's special election decision will help fund emergency services, water and sewer drainage, and other things. The vote was 175 yes, 27 no. Well, shifting gears to the midterm election, there was another round of primaries last night, and Trump-backed candidates had strong showings in critical battleground states. This could have big implications for the midterms and the influence of the former president. Ed O'Keefe is tracking all the results from last night.
Another round of primaries and another round of decisive wins for Trump-backed Republicans, including many who've said the 2020 election was stolen. In the swing state of Nevada, Adam Laxalt will be the GOP nominee for U.S. Senate. He's endorsed by former President Trump and has supported false claims of election fraud. He'll take on Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto in the fall, in one of those races that could determine the balance of power in the Senate. But also in Nevada, Jim Marchant is the Republican nominee for Secretary of State. In Nevada, like many other states, the Secretary of State is elected and manages elections, and Marchant has said he would not have certified the 2020 election results. So if he wins this fall, he's among the Trump-backed deniers of the 2020 election results who would oversee elections in 2024. Then there's South Carolina, where Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's been critical of the former president, defeated Trump-backed candidate Katie Arrington in the state's first congressional district. But fellow Congressman Tom Rice, one of 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach the former president, lost his re-election bid to a Trump-backed state lawmaker, Russell Fry. Finally, a big sign of worry for Democrats from South Texas, where Republican Mayra Flores decisively won a special election to replace Democratic Congressman who resigned his seat early. Her win is notable because the district's majority Latino, and she'd become the first ever Mexican-born Congresswoman to serve in the House. It's also the first blue-to-red flip of a House district that was won by President Biden in 2020. So it's an early warning sign for Democrats of potential losses to come this November. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Washington.
Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
With Father's Day just around the corner, we decided to combine two of Dad's favorites into one amazing recipe. He's gonna love this.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Cloud cover actually kind of providing just a little break from the sunshine every now and then, but it's not backing off from the wind. And of course, we can't do anything about the humidity that's now moved in from the Gulf, and we are firmly entrenched in the midst of it. Joplin sits at 85 degrees. Now, one thing about this humidity, it was sitting about at 65 degrees pre-sunrise. And so the fact that we've been able to just kind of ride that at a steady 65%, let's call ourselves kind of lucky on that because we've seen a great shift of the humidity east toward the Mississippi River, and that really helps us out as far as what it feels like later this afternoon. Still, at the same point in time, we're pushing mid-80s already. Joplin and Carthage at 86, though Lamar in there as well. 87 in Chanute, let's roll 85 in Nevada and in Grove. Now, as far as that humidity goes, if we kind of zoom in here, you'll notice that we find ourselves just right in the midst of it. If we could push out just out here outside of our highlighted counties, there would be a considerable difference of about 3 to 4 degrees when it comes to our heat index readings. That, however, is not the case, and as much as I want to point that out, you know, Mother Nature's not going to move the humidity. There we are stuck with it, as well as the 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. The last gust that we picked up at Joplin Regional Airport clocked in at 32 miles per hour. Now the wind is going to get considerably better as we get to sunset. As a matter of fact, it'll be pretty calm overnight. Wake up tomorrow, we'll roll about 10 to 15 miles per hour, not have to worry about it being so gusty. Dome of the heat wave now over the Great Lakes instead of making more of that vertical movement that we had, pushing all the way to the Atlantic coast, lasting through the southeastern portion of the United States, and a little movement in the jet stream. This is what we did when we started the show. We said, if the jet stream would simply move to the east toward us, well, that would usher in some of these milder temperatures that they're seeing in the upper plains. But she's been very, very stagnant as of late. She wants to grab that Gulf moisture, throw thunderstorm activity for the upper plains, and just kind of give us all that heat right underneath her. And she's not going to want to move here for the next couple of days. With that being said, we do avoid any watches, warnings, or advisories. Those now push out to the east. And don't be surprised, though, we're going to be back into the orange. Then the orange indicates the heat advisory because our warm-up has just begun. That's right. If you think it's been hot this week, oh, just wait until we get past Father's Day into next week. A look at the severe thunderstorm risk map. This is our problematic area up by the Great Lakes in between Minneapolis, Green Bay, and Chicago. This will be the second consecutive day that we've seen the high category in the contiguous 48, and 2 times out of the last 3 days, it has targeted this specific area. So not only are they in the risk of tornadic activity, but they're pretty much guaranteed high wind, hail, and also too, yes, they find themselves inside the same heat wave that we are. So it's almost triple barrel action for them. As far as our precipitation goes, you may have noticed earlier on the 7-day forecast that we put up a very slight number for tonight into tomorrow. So here's what we have. Pops of rain every now and then, very isolated, north of Highway 54. You may see a lightning strike, may even see what you refer to as heat lightning every now and then, but it kind of ebbs and flows, and it's not going to be widespread. Now, Friday, here's what we're eyeballing right there. Okay, so this thing right here, because every time that it runs a different model, it seems to have a little southerly drop to it. And so while the most of it wants to stay in Kansas City right now, as the days go by here in the next 36 hours, we're really going to pay attention to that front that drops out of Nebraska and Iowa, moves itself through Kansas City, and we'll have to see how much our northern counties can get. Tanya, normally, I'd say 9 times out of 10, we see a front like that. We go, oh, works in from the north, cooler temperatures. That will not be the case. We'll go 94 on Friday, 95 on Saturday, Father's Day. Take that out in the morning or in the evening. Don't do it during the peak heating hours. And then lock in for mid-90s consistently next week.
For those who liked it hot, they're in luck.
Ooh.
All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4 state heroes. Staff Sergeant Daniel Boring in the U.S. Army. He earned the Expert Infantryman's Badge and the Parachutist Badge while serving tours in Kosovo, Afghanistan, and in Iraq. To Staff Sergeant Daniel Boring, we thank you, our 4 state hero. We're combining 2 of Dad's favorites to come up with today's recipe. Howard shows us how to make Dad's beer marinated steak in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
With Father's Day only a few days away, we want to share a recipe that we think Dad and all the dads in your life will love. I mean, what dad doesn't like steak, and when it's marinated in beer, all the better. We start off by making an outrageous marinade by mixing together some soy sauce, brown sugar, minced garlic, and get this, a good amount of beer. Now we marinate a flank steak in this in the fridge for at least a couple hours or even overnight. Come dinner time, we take the steak out of the marinade and toss it onto our outdoor grill, or we can even do this right in a grill pan right on our stovetop. All it takes is about 5 minutes per side or until it's done to your liking. Then we sprinkle on some sea salt and some freshly ground pepper before slicing it thinly across the grain. Does this look mouth-watering or what? Between the richness of the beer and the wow we get from the garlic, you can't miss. So here's what I suggest. Go online and get the recipe for Dad's Beer Marinated Steak. So you'll be ready to impress your dad this Father's Day with a steak that'll be loved as much as he is. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, wishing dads everywhere a happy Father's Day, filled with lots of, ooh, it's so good.
Well, you can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
Temperatures up into the low 90s, feel about like 97 to 99 this afternoon. But remember, we're a long way away from being with the end of the heat advisories. Look at the mercury increase as we head into Father's Day weekend, up to 95 by Saturday. And then we roll a string of consecutive mid-90s all through next week.
All right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, the World Health Organization is exploring the possibility that monkeypox could be sexually transmitted. In Health Watch, what it means after the virus is found in the semen of several patients. Plus, the Crawford County Sheriff's Department reevaluates its budget after continuing high gas prices, and tips to protect yourself from potential gas thieves. Those stories, a whole lot more, of course, it's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
All right. Thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.